is, I don't know what we do. I mean, but the thing is where we can get them the internet, if it is available, we do have devices if it's available for them to log on. So, I mean, I just want everybody to understand we're doing all we can, but I can't force them to come and get them.
Yeah. How's that working on the south end of the county?
Well, Happy Valley, is that the direction you're asking toward, or?
No, Rome Mountain and Elk Mills are in an
Well, I didn't even think of north and south on that, but I think Cloudland High School asked for about 20 some to 30, and then there's like 10 to 15 at the elementary. But it is assigned out one per family, and it will connect 2 to 3 devices. So if they've got a kid that's at the elementary, that will also give them wireless to that kid at the high school also.
Okay.
But I'm not going to lie to you. There are places, if we give them 2 or 3 of them, it ain't going to make a difference.
Oh, I know. And it depends on the courier too.
Yes.
I know when I was on patrol as long as I was on the state highway, I could communicate with anybody when I was on Verizon, but when I had Sprint, I couldn't be on the state highway. I had to get off the road and then it worked. It's a give and take.
But I do want everybody to understand that Dr. McAbee, has made that a priority to get this out, and we are putting them out there, and it is available Monday through Friday, even after hours if they'll call. We've got roughly, I know there's some other departments that took some of them, but I'm going to say there's 180 still left to be given out if the numbers they give us up front was correct.
That's correct, yeah.
But
that's a good lick. I mean, it may be a temporary patch, but anything's better than nothing right now.
Yes. And we have increased at the schools. Our signals are maxed out. We're pumping out as much I just can't turn it up no higher.
Yeah.
But they do have something that is available. And I do want you to understand, we are giving them out. Like I said, I think we give out number 77 or 78 today. But that being said, there's still over 100 and some left of the first initial report. So,
all right, it's a few minutes after 6. Let's go ahead and get this budget committee meeting started. So this committee meeting is being held virtually due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. For live public access to the protection of health, safety, and welfare of the public. So at this time, I'll go ahead and call the roll. Mr. Campbell.
Here.
Mr. Campbell here. Ms. Brown.
Here.
Ms. Brown here. Mr. Von Cannon.
Present.
Mr. Von Cannon's here. Mr. James.
here.
Mr. James is here. Mr. Garland.
Here.
Mr. Garland here. Mr. Hill here. Mr. Frazier.
Here.
Mr. Frazier's here. Ms. McCamey.
Here.
Ms. McCamey's here. As you know, last month I said that if I took over as the chairman of the commission, I would be stepping down from the budget chair. So at this time, I'm going to be stepping down, and Vice Chairman James will become the new chairman, Mr. James.
Congratulations, sir.
Oh, thank you for the punishment. All right, everybody, so move on next. I'll take a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second. I got a motion by Mr. Frazier, second by Mr. Von Cannon. I'm just going to go around the table here. Von Cannon.
Yes.
Willie.
Yes.
Aaron.
Yeah.
James. Yes. Hill.
Yes.
McCamey.
Yes.
Miss Brown.
Yes.
It's me, Austin.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, yes.
Garland. All right. Agenda passes. Next, we're going to have the election of vice chair. I'll open the floor for nominations.
We got out there.
Don't everybody jump up all at one time now.
I nominate Ross Garland.
All right, I've got a nomination for Mr. Garland.
I'll make a motion, nomination cease.
Motion nomination.
We need to Make a
And
motion to cease. Somebody already did.
Yeah, Mr. Hill did. We just need a
I
second.
that.
All right, we got a motion by Mr. Hill and a second by Mr. Von Cannon to cease nominations.
1 second, Austin. Hey, Travis, would you be willing to amend yours to accept by acclamation?
Absolutely.
Mr. Von Cannon, you good with that?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Von Cannon is good with the amendment. All right. Mr. Von Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Frazier,
Yes.
James is a yes. Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Ms. McAmey,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Garland.
Yes.
All right. Motion passes. Congratulations, Mr. Garland.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Charlie.
All right, next is a review and approval of the minutes from the December 14th, 2020 meeting. By second term, review them, and then I'll take a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Under a motion by Mr. Garland,
Second.
a second by Mr. Campbell. Any discussion or changes?
Animal discussion's over.
What do you say?
I don't think that's for us. Seeing none, call the roll. Mr. Von Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Frazier,
Aye.
Mr. James, yes. Mr. Hill. Travis,
Yes.
Ms. McCamey,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Garland.
Yes.
All yeses, motion passes. Next, we have public comments.
Got one caller.
Chairman James Brad Johnson, 3rd District.
Yes, sir.
I'm not on a public comment. I got a question for you as the chair, because I noticed you're doing all the recording. Is there a problem we didn't have a secretary there to take or to journal the meeting minutes?
Oh, they go back and watch it and make the minutes after that off the video.
Do they? Okay. I just wondered because that's part of the standing committees and the responsibility. That's the second time I've seen it so far, so.
Yeah, I think Susie, she's still doing the minutes. I know that, isn't she?
Yes.
Yes.
Who's doing that?
Yeah, there's a couple of them that do, but sometimes it's overseen and it, you notice it works the chairman or the vice chairman to death. They try
Oh,
to
yeah.
keep it all down. Thank you anyhow. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no problem, Mr. Johnson. Anybody else? All right, seeing none, we're gonna move to old business, and there is no old business, so we're gonna move on to new business. First on it is discussion of payout for EMA Director, Mr. Smith, who will be retiring in February of 21. We owe him some money for his comp time. I believe, Mr. Burke, if you don't care to pop in on that and give us the total. In here somewhere.
Just so everyone knows, it's page 8.
There it is. Yeah, so it's $6,898.47. And
That's based-
we can go ahead. Go ahead.
And that's based on the, his current balance of comp time. That could be lower or could be a little higher, but will most likely be lower.
To be fair, you guys will see it's actually the
Internet.
time off is based off of 12/26/2020. But that was as current as we could get it.
COC
before.
guest.
Mhm.
COC guest.
Capital or
I think it's all lowercase.
all right, I will entertain any motions that anybody want to give, if they want to pay this out a certain way or hold it and pay it later. Whatever y'all think would be best.
Got no alternative.
What's the normal procedure on that, actually? I mean, as far as retirement and paying them out?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
That will be, need to be paid timely after he retires. Process the check.
Okay, so,
Basically, we got to do it now.
okay, so
What was the total again?
$6,898.47.
Where does that normally come, Brad? Out of general, I mean, unassigned most of the time for that?
Yes, you'll have to.
Okay.
Brad, can we not go ahead and just wait and pay it out of the payroll or the salary line item and then just reimburse it? So we know the exact dollar amount.
We could.
I'm good either way.
That will work. So it'll be 4 months salary remaining.
That should be more than enough for us to get it fixed and get the exact amount in March, right?
There'll be about 3 months of time there being paid out for his vacation and comp time.
Oh, gotcha.
And just to let the committee know, I've been reaching out to the area counties on how they do their EMA director and doing some research on it. Probably going to have some discussion with whoever takes the new EMA spot on this comp time. Most of the surrounding counties have they're a salary paid wage. So they're just a salaried employee. They don't accumulate comp time. We've got 2 counties that don't, but then we've got 2 counties that do, but one of the counties EMA is also their coroner. So it's in our salary's quite low compared to the surrounding counties for that position. So I don't know if we're offsetting it with the comp time, or is the discussion's going to have to be had to raise the salary, but something's definitely going to have to give because the comp time, as you can see, is eating us up on that position.
Hey, Brad, I thought that Gary would fall under the emergency services. And I think those guys, you can't limit them from having comp time. I know the sheriff's department you can't, so.
I don't know what the resolution on that was, but I think the reason, I could be wrong, this happened before I came on board, but at one point, it looked like the federal government was going to increase management exempt personnel salary to like 47,000. Well, the county commission took action to raise salaries of certain supervisors to that level. Then, as it turns out, the federal government never passed that law. And I think the EMA director, for whatever reason, I'm not sure, wasn't raised up to that 47,000 level as the other supervisors.
Yeah, and I was here during that time. The reason why, Brad, is because Krista believed that he fell underneath the emergency services like the sheriff's department would. So in her mindset, even if we raised his salary to that amount, we still could not exclude him from getting comp time. So it seemed like a moot point.
We have 2 other counties that are their EMA directors salaried employees, and they don't understand where we got that at.
And that could have been a complete.
I mean, I'm just saying that's what the other counties around us are saying. They don't know there's nothing exempt for their EMA directors. They're salaried and they make a base salary plus benefits, and there's no comp time.
And make them salary exempt.
I know there is I can't think exactly what it is right now, but there's another, I think it's TCRS, as far as the classification for EMA, they don't qualify for the public safety, such as the sheriff's department deputy. I don't know if it's the same way in this matter or not, as far as the comp time / overtime.
Mayor Woodby.
Yeah.
Who's over Gary? Who sends him out? Who dispatches him?
He gets dispatched out by 911 when they call dispatch, and whoever the officer is on the scene or whatever the situation is, they request EMA services. Whether it's the state trooper, whether it's county, city, EMS, they're the one that requests their services.
We should never got to this much comp time to start with, but that's beside the point. But You know, my understanding is if he's on a, say a tractor and trailer accident and it's spilling fuel everywhere, and he's on the scene. 911 dispatches him to that.
If he's requested by whoever the responding, and Brad Johnson, he knows more about it. Whoever the responding officer is, THP, whoever's there on the scene, they
Okay.
have to request EMA.
Brad,
Yeah,
can you hear me?
yeah.
Once this takes place and not the environmentalists, but maybe it's close to it, but when they get the hazmat gets on the scene, ain't his job finished at that time?
Yes, it is. Of course, that's basically, he has no other rule to go by, or whoever's in that position. And, you know, there's nobody to come out and says, here's when you shut down and when you return. Particularly, I'm afraid that they've been responding to just whoever calls from the scene, not being the scene commander or the law officer on scene, and then they're responding from that. The biggest thing, the reason why that, you know, when the mayor mentioned about the salary or the compensation for the person in that position, when that legislation came down from Washington, if y'all remember, and it hit the main floor, that they automatically wanted to raise, and they did by vote, for everybody that was entitled the department director. As an example, you know, your voting commission, but they didn't give it to the EMS because that requirement required no less than 3 people under their supervision. So there was only one other in there, and that's why that he was not elevated to the same level as the other directors on our services in the county.
What I'm getting to is as the mayor said, somewhere we got to get control of this, or we're going to run right back into this again and be paying out this money again somewhere along the line if we want to run this comp time up. But if the hazmat comes on the scene, I don't care what it is, a coal spill, whatever it is, plant on fire or whatever it is, and once the hazmat team comes on the scene, he should be dismissed and should leave the job at that time. Is that correct?
That's correct, Willie. That's something that I know you brought the issue up, and I know it's been up 5 or 6 more times in the past 2 years, and there's still been nothing done. And it may be something that we're going to have to look into before you make a selection to fill that vacancy. There has to be a little bit more governing of it.
That's what I'm alluding to, is just making some changes with that vacancy on how to get a better hold of this. And when I talk with Washington County and some of the other counties, they leave it their EMA director's discretion on when to leave the scene or what scene to go to. It's totally up to that. Even though they've been dispatched out to the scene, they say their directors make that call. They really need to, the discretion needs to really be there. My understanding from Washington County, his director is very limited on what he goes out on. It has to be pertinent to that department. They just don't go out on anything.
They could get in the habit of just whenever they hear to cross the scanner, or it could be automatic just by a dispatcher from 911, or it could be from the law enforcement side of the house says, hey, what the heck, call EMA in, and really not have anything that, you know, they have to do other than come to the scene. And when it does, the clock starts until he gets back.
Okay.
Just from the experience on the road, it would be extremely very few times. Just because you got a fuel leak don't mean you call the whole infantry out.
Right. But I think both of you, you know, I just wanted to see what was going on here. Right?
Well, from you know, when I was on the financial management side of the house on the chair, it was brought up to that because Director Burke was just getting ready to come on, and the comp time had already surpassed our minimum level and had to be corrected, and that's why that we give a request for guidance to the mayor at the time, and to say, hey, we'll have to start examining that because he's getting way over the amount of comp time, and what that does is eats up on your funds.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you,
So I've got a question, Chairman James. I mean, do we need to approve this tonight and move forward with getting it paid either out of fund balance or out of payroll? I mean, we need to, Brad, do you need to?
Director Burke, what do you think? You think we need to go ahead and get this paid out? Because you said he's leaving February, so we won't meet again before, well, I guess we'll meet before the end of the month. What do we need to do with this?
We could go either way with it. Like Travis, Mr. Hill brought up, there are ample funds there to cover this for the time he won't be here or be paid out for. So 6 is one half dozen of the other.
So you think we can just pay it out of the money that we've already got allocated in the salary line item then?
And then we can refill it.
Okay.
After the fact.
Yeah, as
I'll
long
make
as
a motion. Go ahead.
as long as somebody hadn't brought on board before June 30th. If so, that would be more money appropriated back into that line.
My suggestion would be go ahead and try to pay it out of the line, his salary line that's already appropriated. And what we're going to try to do is I'm going to talk with Billy and move him possibly to an interim basis and see how we can function until we get it filled at the beginning of the new budget year. If we can do that without having to ask for new money.
That would depend on if Mr. Harrell's salary is increased to the
right
director's salary. Of course, a portion of it could be funded with his salary where it is now in assistance, I believe.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and pay it out of the salary line item for the emergency management office and readdress it in March once we've got a better idea of what's going on.
I'll second it.
All right, we got a motion by Mr. Frazier and a second by Mr. Campbell. We have any discussion? Seeing none, call the roll. Mr. Von Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell, Mr. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. James, yes. Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Ms. McAmey,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
and Mr. Garland.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. All right, motion passes. Next on old
James?
business.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. James? This is Gary out 6th District.
Uh-huh.
On that EMA director, can I ask a question here? I mean, I know we done this and it's going to come back up, but just something for thought. How many emergencies do we have that we're building that much comp time? To me, it should only be to a flood, a major fire, something that's disaster. So we're sitting here saying we're building up so much comp time, but where's the disasters? I mean, where's the floods, the windstorms, the major fuel leaks? To me, that's your EMA. I'm just a thought right there. I mean, what's the line that we're determining that it's a major disaster?
Well, there were several floods last year and the year before, and I'm assuming the comp time can carry over year.
But I think we paid him out, Mr. Frazier, in January.
We didn't pay him all the way out. We paid him to, I think it was right at or just under 100 hours.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
So, but he has accrued and he's got, Director Burton, do you have any idea how much we have paid out in comp time this year? Or not to everybody, but to the EMA department?
There was just that one payment, and I can't tell you right off the top of my head how much that was. Seemed like it was maybe 30 hours.
Well, my point that I'm getting at around is we may start having to look at maybe if this is and I'm not talking about just Mr. Smith, I'm talking about Mr. Harrell too, how much comp time he's got, because if this is going to be a continual running thing that we're having to pay out comp time, we're going to get to a point that we're better off to get somebody, if we can, part-time to help with it, or another position or something, because you're paying time and a half for this comp time. But that's just discussion as we move forward, and something the mayor can work on and try to figure out for us what the best route is there to save the county money. We'll move on. Next, Mayor, I'll let you take this on since you brought it up as discussion regarding the building and grounds request to allocate up to $40,000 from capital improvements to cover the cost of replacing the election office roof.
Yes, the election office roof is leaking, and it's a rubber roof, so it's kind of a odd situation. Ron said, it's been patched a lot. It's got several round places in the top of it. It's a lot of issues with it, and so now we're to the point of having to replace it. There's
Did you
no
ever write
real
specs?
idea on the amount because the way
Because I
cost
looked
of
at it.
materials has went up. Ron thinks possibly no more than 25,000, but he's just not sure. We have a guy coming in from Kingsport tomorrow to do an estimate on it, to give us a quote, to help us kind of understand if this is going to be a bid process or a quote process, depending on if it's under 25,000 or over. So we were just asking to go ahead and allocate 40,000 to go ahead and get the project moving if it does have to be a bid process, because you're still looking at 2 or 3 months before we can even get through that.
I looked at the job today. You've got roughly 5,520 square feet to work with, plus the little building on the right that appears to be a heating or air conditioning building, the little block building. It's got a hip roof and shingles. I would not include it in the bid unless they wanted to give you a separate figure on that, because it doesn't need anything. The 2 wings that were added, they appear to be okay. I think the leaks would have been in the main center, or could be between the walls.
One of the leaks that's right now is actually where the machines are. So it's gotten to the point to where it's needing to be replaced.
I just had 11,600 square feet of roof put on, and it cost me, based on this, about 25,000, which would be half of the number that I paid 50 for.
Charlie, you weren't up on this roof, were you?
I stay on that roof, baby. When I need to be there, that's where I am.
Okay. I make a motion that we take the 40,000 or set up to 40,000 from the capital improvements fund to cover the new roof.
I'll say
Second.
All right, we got a second, or we got a motion by Mr. Garland and a second by Ms. Brown to take $40,000 and put into out of the capital improvement and set aside for the replacement of the roof at the elections office. All right, any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Von Cannon.
I don't. I say that you ought to accept the little building because it doesn't need the roof. It doesn't need guttering. None of it needs guttering, and that's a big item anymore. And the gutters, by the way, the drains are internal drains as opposed to, well, what I'm saying, the roof evidently has got some pitch to it that brings it to the drains that are down on the roof. They're part of the roof rather than hanging on the side. You need to look at it because you can save some money. 40,000 is a good number to say no more than, but it's too much money for that job.
Well, I mean, I think we could get, if you got to have people come in and give estimates, you could give one to replace the whole roof and the addition you're talking about, or just replace, mostly of what's leaking, the rubber part, and leave that separate, couldn't you?
Yeah, I mean, and once we get the estimate on this first estimate, we're going to kind of know if we're in the $25,000 range or if we're above. We're just trying to go ahead and get the process moving, just to go ahead and reserve the money.
Yeah.
What kind of roof is on now? Tar and asphalt paper?
Yeah.
Rubber roof.
You could go back with a rubberized roof. That's what I'd had done recently.
Yeah, TPO would be your best roof.
A rubberized roof with stone on top to hold it down.
Any more discussion? All right, we'll call the roll. Mr. Von Cannon.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Frazier.
Aye.
Mr. James is yes. Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Ms. McAmy,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Garland.
Yes.
All right, all yeses, motion passes. Thank you. Now we're moving on to the next. Mr. Burke, I'll let you discuss this. It's a review of the approval of the disposal stuff via Gov Deals.
Okay, I'll let Michael take care of that. He's been involved in that.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. So if you want to turn to page 10, we created a summary sheet just to make things a little bit easier for everyone. So you'd have to flip through all the pictures and everything else. And behind page 10 is the backup documents if you want to look at the more in-depth inspection of the items. But essentially, we have an item for the finance department. We have 4 Victor printing calculators and 1 floppy disk drive. We're not quite sure of the usefulness of these. We're pretty sure they cut on, but as far as how well they work, I'm not certain. They're very old. And then we also have 2 buildings and grounds items that we're getting rid of. We have 10 bundles of the 72-inch wooden blinds that were replaced. And then we also have 1 Zenith TV. And if you look at that Zenith TV, we're talking something pretty old. It's definitely antiquated technology, to say the least. So we just asked for you guys, your approval to go ahead and put that stuff on Gov Deals and get rid of it.
Is some of this stuff not stuff that we can just trash? I mean, it's got to be taking more in time and labor preparing this paperwork and putting it on Gov Deals than it is than worry. I mean, you know, what are we hoping to get out of this? $5? I mean,
Well, Brad, what is, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, as far as the disposition of assets, normally we try to at least post them. Obviously, if there's any salvage value of things. Now, if it's obviously scrap, then we can dispose of it and do a disposition of asset form per Brad's capital assets and non-capital assets policies. But Brad, what do you want to say about it?
I was just going to say, when these items are requested to be declared surplus, it should be, if it's worthless, useless, torn up, end of life, what have you, it should be indicated on the forms they fill out. And that way they can be disposed of rather than auctioned off. But if anything has a value, whether it's $5 or $10, what have you, I think it should be sold. If it doesn't get any bids, then of course it can be taken to the dump or whatever.
does Gov Deals charge us money to list stuff on there, or how does? No.
Buyers pay it.
Yeah.
Do I?
They just do buyer's premium, and that's it.
Yeah. Well,
I make a motion.
Go ahead, Mr. Hill. Yeah.
I just say make a motion. We declare these as surplus items.
Second. Mr. Hill, second by Mr. Frazier. Now, any discussion? So, the only thing I'm saying is, and I'll bring it up in financial management, I think we just need to look at, the cost, of what it's actually costing us to put it on there and fool with it as it is to check it. I mean, we've got to be losing money on that. But,
You're right.
well,
The blinds will be thrown away.
anyways,
Surprised.
any more discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Mr. Von Cannon,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Frazier,
Aye.
Mr. James is yes, Mr. Hill,
Yes.
Ms. McAmy,
Yes.
Ms. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Garland.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Next, we'll move on to discussion regarding planning and zoning request. We have an additional salary for a full-time electrical inspector. Pulled up. Everybody should have had the request emailed around to him from Mr. Kennedy. Did everybody receive that?
Yes.
All right, so the first request is $20,000 for an additional salary for a full-time electrical inspector. The motion was passed December the 15th through their meeting. What this is going to hire him another full-time employee. This employee will also do building inspection too, so they're going to do dual role in it. We roughly, if I understand correctly, and the paper should have been sent around and pulled up, what we are collecting in revenues that goes to the state. All right, so For 2018-19, we collected $57,140. For 2019 to 2020, we collected $50,815. And for this fiscal year so far, as of January 2021, we've collected $20,295. And so the way that this works, since we don't have an electrical inspector on staff, this money is sent to the state, or now it's collected directly by the state, and we receive $5 a permit. So once we receive an electrical inspector, we should receive anywhere. Somebody told me they was passing a new thing today, and Director Burke, you might be the one, but we would only receive 85%, but I asked Director Schuler, and he said he wasn't aware of that yet. But either way, we'll still collect this revenue back into the county instead of sending it on to the state. So, you know, if we're collecting, say, an average of $50,000 a year, we're still going to generate roughly around $20,000 more a year in income before you back everything out. Can you elaborate a little bit on the 85% there, Director Burke?
Well, that's what I was told by a representative from the Department of Insurance and Commerce. He said to the best of his knowledge, it was 85%.
Okay, I think we got Director Schuler on here too. Mr. Schuler, would you care to talk about that, whether you heard anything or what?
The only thing I can think of would be what a contractor gets. He gets the 85% of that permit fee. That's the only thing I could think of that individual be speaking of. I hadn't seen anything come through the information channels where if you're doing your own inspections, you don't accumulate all those fees.
So at this time, I will entertain a motion. If anybody has one for the $20,000 and to hire another employee. Well, that would come through theirs, but.
Where does this, whose office does this come through?
Plus.
Planning Commission, zone?
Whatever.
Mr. James.
Go ahead, Director Schuler.
All right, it's adding to line item 141, which is already an open line item for personnel. I hadn't filled it since relieving the person from that duty. So that will be the 16,870 will be added to that. It's not hiring another person. It's adding to be able to fill that position as an electrical inspector. I apologize.
Chris?
Sir?
Does, I may be on the wrong track there, but does Jay Cook have this electrical inspection?
No, sir.
He can't handle that?
That's a pretty hard one to handle, Willie, to be honest with you. Somebody has to be very, very knowledgeable on it.
He's not took to school?
Not as far as that goes. Not on that one, sir.
But what I'd like to bring back with this is the $20,000. If we approve that additional, we will collect the electrical permit revenue, which we're not receiving now, which is going to be roughly $30,000 to $40,000 more a year in revenue after you take the $20,000 out.
Or if you don't approve the 20,000, it's 85,000. Here's the thing, that before you hire anybody, and you know this, you prove that you need them. For example, how many permits were written? Inspection time for each one, roughly. Inspection charge per permit, of course, that is what you've gained here. But I never approved any additional people until they proved to me they needed them. That's just, and I don't see this as proof.
Director Schuler?
Yes, sir.
Could you explain, I know you talked to us in planning about it, but what the advantages of having an electrical inspector compared to what we have now, just the time frame for our citizens?
Oh, yes, sir, Commissioner Hill. Basically, we have electrical inspector 2 days a week in Carter County. That is Monday and Wednesday. That individual is a contractor with the State Fire Marshal's Office and Department of Commerce and Insurance. That individual doesn't live in Carter County. He works those 2 days. Then he works 2 days in Johnson County. And he doesn't work on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. So what happens is a lot of times when it's time for inspection on a footer ground or something of that nature, just say it's going to be rain the day after tomorrow, and they want everything inspected tomorrow, which is Tuesday. There's no way to get him here unless they had pre-planned 3, 4, 5 days ahead of time. So that gives us the advantage of having somebody here full time, plus have them additional trades to be able to inspect.
Is that your proof?
No, that's the truth, Mr. Von Cannon. The proof is in 18-19 time frame, there was $57,140 worth of electrical permits wrote. 1920, we had 50,815, and up until the 1st of January of this year, for 2021, we had 20,295. Those are hard numbers, sir.
Well, you did that without anybody additional.
We don't get to keep that money. That's what we sent to the state. That's what we're saying.
So if you don't have a full-time person, you don't get to keep the 85%?
No, we don't get to keep none of this money. All this money went to the
All
state.
right, that's a different story. You've proved it.
It's you're going to have some office space for this person.
Why, yes, sir. I got plenty of office space here. We can make that work.
Yeah,
Okay.
Mr.
Well, I
Rogers,
know, I mean, coming from the utility business, I know we had a gentleman that was working here. Of course, when they went to all the electronic permits, or mostly, I guess, electronic through the state, that he's kind of just as pretty much a contractor, works on his own, either from the home or will he have time to take calls from customers, electricians, and answer questions and things like that, Chris?
Yeah, if he doesn't, then he doesn't need a job with me.
Okay. Well,
how's that?
Okay.
If he's not willing to work with the people of Carter County, then he doesn't need to be working for Carter County.
Yeah, right. I agree with that.
I mean, I don't mean to be smart about it. I'm just, it's just our people deserve better.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, and it's a great resource to have. You know, people, they'll call in, you know, or maybe some part-time electricians, I guess you could say, or have questions or about which permits they need. It, you know, that it's a great asset and a good resource to have, that somebody can answer that question for them.
Right, and still we have one individual spot here that we write all our permits out of, so that'll be taken care of as far as that goes, and then there'll be a desk here for him also, sir.
Okay.
So I will entertain a motion. If anybody has one.
I second.
I need a motion first, Mr. Von Cannon.
Well, you know what the motion's gonna be. So, yeah.
Oh boy.
So, Mr. Von Cannon, are you making a motion to approve the 20?
You make the motion.
I can't make the motion. I'm chair.
I make the motion, we approve this request.
All right, Mr. Von Cannon's made the motion to approve the request for the
I'll
$20,000.
second it.
Ms. Brown has seconded it. Do we have any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
the only thing I need some clarification on is the classification. It's 141 is a foreman. Is this person going to be a foreman?
Yes.
This person that's something we need to discuss too, but instead of rolling it back into all the salary line items, if y'all wanted to do it that way, I'd be more than happy to alleviate 141, but we'd have to roll it back into our other salaries. We can leave it as a foreman. I know that's the way the highway department does some of that, and some of the other individuals. So we can leave it as that, and that's not going to be that big a deal, Mr. Burke.
What are you saying? Leave it in 141?
Yeah, that 141 hasn't been touched this year, and that's where the additional 16,870 will be going into, and then the breakdown of 204, which I think is TCRS, if I'm not correct, is 1,600. Line item 201 would be 1,240. I believe that's Social Security. And line item 212, I believe, is Medicare, is 290. So that would be the breakdown of the 20.
Okay, I guess I didn't make that clear or whatever. But anyway, 141, like I said, is foreman. And the only person that can be paid from that line item is a actual foreman. Same thing that we wouldn't pay a teacher out of a secretary's line item. Same principle.
I guess what you're trying to get, Director Burke, is are we going to hire this person in to classify their title as a foreman? Is that what you're asking?
If they are in fact a foreman, I mean, that's where it belongs in 141. Otherwise, it belongs in another salary account.
Then we need to take that salary account and drop 141, take that information, that monies, and place it in 189, which is other salaries and wages. Does that make sense, Mr. Burke? I mean, would that what you suggest?
It makes sense. Off the top of my head, I can't think of another account where it would fit other than maybe a deputy or, something like that.
Yeah, it doesn't give us a lot of jiggle room as far as that goes with the state numbers as far as the object accounts.
Well, let's roll on with it like that if everybody's good. And if Director Burke, if you find some other place we place it by the time full commission, we can change it around then. So
okay.
Just yell at me, Brad, and we'll get together on that.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Any more discussion?
Mr. James?
Mr. Tester, is that you?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
I do have a quick question for Chris. What is the county's tort liability on this employee, and how do we cover it if we do end up in a lawsuit or something like that over, house burning down or something? I know that was a big issue when at where I used to work, was the liability of this position. And I was just curious what Chris had found out.
Yeah, the same as the Department of Commerce and Insurance does the tort liability to their subcontractors. That's why a lot of these guys didn't have properties in their names that are subcontractors out here doing electrical inspections throughout the state of Tennessee, and I think over in North Carolina, maybe in Southwest Virginia. But the employee would be under our tort liability for Carter County. So if there was a problem, then he would fall under that.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, sir.
Any more? Seeing none, I'll call the roll. Mr. Von Cannon?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. James is yes. Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. McAmey?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Garland?
Yes.
All right, all ayes, motion passes.
Thank you all.
Next, we have a budget amendment from planning and zoning to move 3,000 from travel to travel in service to staff development. Director Schuler, would you like to elaborate on that?
Yes, sir. Where our nice little COVID situation is and our people can't travel down to the meetings. Now they're going virtual and you have to buy the manuals and things of that nature for the study guides. So that's what we're doing with that 3,000. I hope that'll be enough to cover that for my staff development. And that's what we're going to shoot for at this time and see what we can do with that and see if we can't move forward.
Do I have a motion? I have a motion by Mr. Hill.
I'll second.
Got a second by Mr. Garland. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the roll. Mr. Von Cannon.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Yes.
Mr. Frazier.
Aye.
Mr. James is yes. Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Ms. McAmey.
Yes.
Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Garland.
Yes.
All right, motion passes.
Thank you all. Have a blessed evening.
You too, Mr. Director Schuler. Finance Department update. Mr. Burke, would you like to talk to us about the sales tax?
Sure. I hope everybody's had a opportunity to look over the documents here, the email and the worksheet for local option and sales tax. And I'll give you a little bit of history on it. The sales tax is collected in the city of Elizabethton, city of Johnson City, Watauga, and in the county outside of any city or town. And all of it comes into the county, to the county trustee. And by law, the first 50% has to go to education. And that 50% that goes to education is allocated on the what's called average daily attendance for each school system. The county schools gets, I think it's currently around 65. Elizabeth City Schools is 33, and City Johnson City is around 2%. Anyway, back in February of this year, the city noticed that a business, Dollar General, that's actually in the city, those collections that they had from the Dollar General were being turned over as collected in the county. And the state determines if a site is in a city or the county when it's reported to them, and they do make errors. And if I remember correctly, the state, when something's reported by the party who should have received the sales tax to begin with, they go back 1 year. And I think there's probably somebody here from the city that can pipe in if I'm getting off course here. But anyway, the state determined that Carter County owes the city of Elizabethton, I think it's 123,000 or so from that time period where they went back. But that Dollar General was built sometime in 2017, I believe. Since the state just goes back so far from the time it's reported to them, that still left that time period that's not covered by the state where they do an adjustment on the collections turned over to the county next month. Basically, next month, the county's tax collection will be decreased by around 123,000. City of Elizabethton will be increased by 122,000, which leaves that portion from 2017, which the total gross taxes was $98,890.95. Okay, when the county received those funds back in 2017, 50% of those collections was distributed to the city schools, Johnson City and Elizabethton. Therefore, that just leaves 50% that the county benefited from the sales tax where the city should have received. It wouldn't have mattered if the city had received those funds correctly back in 2017. The first 50% still would have went to education. And they also, the trustee takes a 1% commission on these tax collections, which leaves a balance of $48,951.03 due to the city. And of that amount, there is a total from the general fund due $40,139.84, and a total due from the general purpose school fund of $5,920.24, and the remaining balance of $2,890.95 is due from the Elizabethton City Schools and the Johnson City Schools. I'm just asking if you want to approve a payment of this. If so, what do a budget amendment from the general fund, $40,139.84, and from the general purpose school fund, $5,920.24.
Director, but remind me if because I sit on financial management too. We deferred this till next month to get some more update about something, didn't we? What was it? Because I remember Mr. Johnson had made the motion.
I can't remember, to be honest with you.
Johnson, do you care?
We done that, Mr. Chairman, we done that because there was, I'm not gonna say question by the city, but they did not have the full knowledge of the breakdown, and they wanted to have time to verify the numbers for all the various agencies that's involved.
Gotcha. Mr. Estes, do you care to, I see you on there, do you want to speak to this, if you all verify the numbers and good with everything, or what?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity. Actually, my finance director sent something over to Director Burke today. So I think there's a minor reconciliation as to what the number would be. And that was what came out of financial management from my memory was what Commissioner Johnson said, which was just to give us a chance to reconcile, make sure we got it right. And then we can move forward from there. I think the number that, again, Preston, my finance director, came up with a little bit less, but we'll get it out. We'll come out in the wash and everybody get it on the same piece of paper and agree to what it ought to be. And then we can just move forward from there.
Okay. If the committee's fine, then let's just defer this till next month when we've got some hard numbers and we know what we're approving. And when we come back and we've got the agreement between the city and the county, so everybody's happy with the number. Is everybody fine with that?
Mr. Bird?
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you, did you say that 50% of that went back to the Elizabethan schools? Is that correct?
No, I left out a very important part of this issue. The first 50%, like I said before, goes to the education, whether it's county or city. And how this, let's see, I'm confusing myself here. There was an increase of a half a cent in the sales tax per referendum back in 2008. Went into effect January 1st, 2019. Okay, so the county, since their first 50% goes to the education, city and county education, they have a remainder of 50%, and the county can do with that whatever they choose to do with it. Okay, there was a motion.
I got what I needed. That's good.
Okay.
That's good.
Mr. Chairman?
All right. Is that Commissioner Bailey?
Yeah, can I ask Mr. Burke a question?
Yes.
What would be the odds of us having some businesses that's in the city that we're not getting paid for, some other ones that maybe they're claiming that we're not?
Oh, it's possible. Actually, we're in the process of reviewing those, what's called signage reports.
So there's a chance that maybe they owe us some money?
There's always a possibility. I don't know when the last time those signage reports have been reviewed by the county.
Well, I actually think the financial management and budget needs to check into that too. If we're going to send it one way, then we need to check to see if they owe us the other way. That's all.
Director Burke, how often do we review those reports?
To my knowledge, it's not been reviewed since I've been here.
Oh.
I think we really need to review these.
Okay. Is that something that maybe we could look at in the future to maybe try to do that once a year and when we get to reports and take them on and start trying to put a little time in to make sure we don't have this issue on either party side, so we don't have to try to go back and fix mistakes on either side?
Oh, it will be a regular practice.
Okay, I appreciate it. And Mr. Boncannon, you have a question?
With this situation, there's $4 generals in question. Was this $1 general or all four?
One.
Just one. Which one? Valley Forge?
One front Snap-on.
Okay.
That's correct, ain't it, Mr. Burke? I believe that's one, wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay. All right, if there's no more discussion on this topic, we'll move on and defer this till next month. So if you don't care, Mr. Burke, just Mr. Kennedy, make sure to put this on there and we'll bring it up next month and hopefully have numbers and get this corrected. Next, we're going to move on to Director Burke. I'll let you discuss this, the cost analysis. I believe you said you was requested to do that for the animal shelter.
Thank you. Yes, I put this information in here. I spoke with the animal shelter director on Friday prior to sending it to her, and I didn't know if it would come up at this meeting or not. So I sent this out for information purposes. I didn't want anybody to be cold on the figures or anything. And I did inform Ms. Posada that I was going to send it out to the budget committee as well at the same time. So that's why these figures are in here. Does anybody have any questions about these other than if you go down to the bottom of the table there, these estimated amounts, it's on page 21. These estimated amounts $4.23 for 1920, $4.10 for 2018-19 are only the net cost funded by the county. If you go up to the top, the adjusted expenditures, these are all the expenditures recognized for the animal shelter in the general fund budget. And there are adjustments made for backing out capital asset purchases, adding back in depreciation, taking into account collections that are taken by the animal shelter for adoption fees, restitution, reimbursement from the Friends of the Shelter due to the audit finding from a few years ago that was paid in reimbursed in 1920, and damages from court cases for animal cruelty cases, and share paid from the city of Elizabethton, and donations and any insurance recovery to come out with the net amount funded with general revenue in the general fund.
Any questions?
One comment.
Yes, Mr. Von Cannon.
Looking at the cost per animal per day, as long as you can see those numbers pretty well the same, you know that somebody's managing the shelter in the same manner. Therefore, they are close together per day per animal, but I don't know whether that's high or low. I can't feed our dogs for that.
Mr. James?
Yes, Commissioner Bailey.
If you look at the total number of 440,544, if you just look at the total number of what they went off with this, that's somewhere around 150, 55 dogs. If you divide that with the total number, though, per day, and you break that down, you would actually take 155 dogs into that, gives you 2,182. Dividing that by 365 days gives you $7.78 a dog per day total, though.
Now, that's not good.
I mean, right or wrong, we're pushing $8 a day per dog.
Director Burke, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, I would. You have to take into account these other things such as capital purchases. Otherwise, your numbers are going to be very skewed from year to year. You may purchase $100,000 for capital outlay purposes in one year and $5 in the other. Same thing with your depreciation. I mean, that number, I think the cost to the county is the more beneficial number by far.
Mr. Burke, I'm not here to argue with you though, but if you look at it, it says adoption, spay and neuter, which has nothing to do with buildings, restitutions, sale of animals, reimbursements from the shelter. I don't see that any of this is where we built or anything. It's just basically donations and stuff. So either way, it's still costing us, am I correct, as a total with the city and everybody, $7.78 a day per dog.
Well, if you take the grand total,
all right, but the grand total is coming up around $8 a day per dog.
That's correct.
Okay, that's all I mean, I'm not here to argue with nothing. It's just, if we look at it as just the county's part, then that's one way of looking at it. If we look at it as a total part, that's another way to look at it. So we can functionally turn this around and say then the city's portion per day is $2.47 a day. I mean, it's all how you want to read the graphs, but right or wrong, it's right at $8 a day per dog total.
Yeah, that's the cost. But the cost of the is $4.23.
All right, Commissioner Johnson, you had a remark there.
Yeah, and I'm sure you're aware because you're on the financial management. This is an ongoing examination. by the financial management, and Chairwoman Holdren is heading it, and everybody has been feverishly interviewing other animal shelters outside of state, inside of state, in this total region for comparison, which works down to what cost per days are of everything. So I think it would be best that you may want to defer that and anything on animal shelter until she reports out to the full commission.
I agree. I think the best thing to do is Director Burke, I would like to see this on the agenda. If you could get with Chairwoman Holdren and make sure that she has this information put to her. And if you don't care, I don't see it in the breakdown. I may be overlooking it at a glance, but make sure to put, maybe it's in here. Yeah, the daily population. Never mind. I just want to make sure that we've got the breakdown for the how many animals we're averages and it's out upon. Because I see both points of view. I see Commissioner Bo's point of view. I see your point of view. At the end of the day, the $440,000 is the total amount of the budget, and it is costing that to operate, and the capital assets or improvements that we would make wouldn't be there if we wasn't operating the budget. So you have to look at it from that side, and then you got to look at it from the side that we are gaining the assets on it. But I think the best thing to do is defer this to financial management, let them put this as part of their research and send it back out to the full commission and let them decide from there what they wish to do. So.
I just want to make one thing clear, that I'm not saying these are reasonable figures or anything. I'm just saying that's what I calculated it to be.
Yeah. Well, if you don't care, in the meantime, when you contact Chairwoman Holder, if there's anything that comes up or you find, modify the figures or work on them when you send it to financial management for the first of the month.
Okay. All right.
I think that's a good suggestion, because I'm just looking at what it costs to feed a child. I'd rather be the dog than the child.
All right, everybody good with us sending that to the financial management? All right. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I think that's the great ideal. I think they need to go over those figures.
Okay, Mr. Brown, we appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Those are great numbers. We appreciate your hard work on that. I know that had to be a pain.
Yeah, we thank you for taking the time and doing that. So
yeah, Brad, that's nothing. It's nothing against you, nothing. I was just sitting here looking at your side. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us really need to take the time to thank Mr. Burke. He does take a lot of extra time to prepare these graphs and things that we request. That's more outside of his parameters of a finance director than anything for us to get better understandings of stuff. You know, this really ain't part of his day-to-day operation routines, but he definitely does it for us. So we need to make sure to thank him when we request this stuff. Next, move up to status of the comptroller review for the 2021 budget from Director Burke.
Brad, you're muted.
I think he's getting to where it's going.
Oh, sorry.
I was trying to get on the right page. If you go to page 22, let's go to page 23 first. This is the actual letter from the comptroller's office. And they were very late getting the budget, the final review of it done this year. As you can see at the top, it came out, the letter's dated December 17th. But anyway, drop down to the bottom of the page, insufficient appropriations, budgeted transfers, not appropriated. There are 4 different funds there. And I spoke with the regional financial analyst for the comptroller's office for the Division of Local Government Finance. And item number 1 and number 2 shouldn't be on this letter. Those were actually included in those categories in the budget, in the detailed budget, and in the total on the budget resolution. But the item 3 and item 4 were not on the budget, can't talk, appropriations resolution in the totals. Therefore, she informed me that we would just need to do a quote budget amendment to the budget appropriation resolution to include these transfers: 31,400 general purpose school fund, 154,000 from central cafeteria fund, and those were sent out today. This list the accounts, which are 99,100, 590 in the general purpose school fund and central cafeteria fund. To amend the budget, it's not necessary to post anything to the budget that is in the official records in Skyward, just to have this presented to the commission, approved, and then sent into the state, and they will send a revised letter for this budget for 2021. Any questions on that issue?
Just one comment. So basically, this is just paperwork. There's no additional appropriations that have to be made.
No, correct.
Make a motion that we set up budget amendments for the 31,400 from the general purpose school fund to the school federal projects fund, and 154,000 from central cafeteria to general purpose school fund.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion by Mr. Fraser, a second by Mr. Campbell. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the roll. Von Cannon.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Fraser.
Aye.
Mr. James, yes. Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Ms. McCamey.
Yes.
Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Mr. Garland.
Yes.
All right, all ayes, motion passes. All
Okay.
right. Go ahead,
Go to
Director Burke.
I'm sorry, page 24. Under other budget considerations, they have a comment there of a structurally unbalanced budget. It relates to the central cafeteria fund, where the appropriations exceeded the estimated revenues in their budget by $667,051. Okay, some background on this is the central cafeteria fund is required to maintain a fund balance of at least 3 months of average expenditures. For numerous years, as far as I can remember back, they've maintained a balance well in excess of that 3-month requirement. And at the end of each fiscal year, they are required to submit a plan for any excess funds above that 3-month requirement, the plan for those funds being expended. They should not have been carrying over these excess balances over the years, according to the requirements of that report. However, it has been a huge benefit in these tough times due to COVID, especially. I talked to the food service supervisor today. The revenue is, as you can imagine, especially the in-school revenue from the teacher meals, a la carte, all those things are way down. As far as the federal reimbursements, of course, because they're serving just a percentage of what they were serving when school is actually in session in the building. And we took, this amount came from their fund balance, 667,051, but the actual, at the end of this year, the actual results will be far less than this, if there's a deficit at all. But anyway, back to what I was getting at. This 667,051 was funded with excess balance they have carried over for year after year. And I explained that to the financial consultant, and I was under the impression that she did not know that before. But anyway, we're good on this issue too.
So we need no action with that then.
No.
All right, anybody got any other questions for Director Burke before we move on?
Well, is there anything that needs to be submitted to the comptroller's office or anything on that, Brad, or we good to go there?
I am, after this, after the budget amendment is approved by the commission, I'm to send her an email stating what I just told y'all and including this budget amendment. And she will send a revised letter back to the county.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on. If everybody will turn to their budget amendments, general fund 101's first on the.
Gonna take a quick break before we.
Oh, yeah. Everybody good? We'll take a 10-minute break. All
5
right, we'll
minutes.
come back at, 7:25.
Frazier.
I
All
get
right,
to
everybody,
the,
we're gonna
hey,
come back to,
I get to the, I get to the daggum airport road and I look up and there's,
all right, everybody, we're gonna come back to order. It's, after 7:25.
oh,
We could, we're gonna, start with the general fund 101, if everybody will turn there.
some of those up there will enjoy that. And, you know,
Uh,
you've got to be careful when that speaker is open. Many people have been wiped out with open speakers.
We're live now, so, all right, if everybody will go to
Page 25.
page 25, yep. So this is General Fund 101, Amendment number 7. Anybody got any questions, Director Burke, anything you want to say?
I will actually cover those if you'd like me real
Oh,
quick.
yes,
Austin.
Mr.
I was
Kennedy.
excited. I thought you were going to cover them for me. I wasn't going to stop
No,
you.
sir, I'm going to let you jump on it and get to going.
All right. So guys, like Austin said, we're going to cover General Fund 101, Budget Amendment number 7. There are 6 line items. As you'll notice, page 25 and the first part of page 26 is one large budget amendment. So if you'll go ahead and just review page 25, page 26, the description for that budget amendment is to reallocate between major categories for liability, vehicle and equipment, and workers' compensation insurance, and to appropriate unassigned fund balance for increase in workers' compensation insurance premiums.
So is that where the,
Go ahead.
sorry, that's where that's where the increase comes from that comes out of the unassigned fund balance?
Yes, sir.
I'll take entertaining, motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve, there a second?
Second.
Got a second by Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Any more discussion?
If you guys want, we can actually just go ahead and not go through the rest of the lines while we're here, just approve them all at once for 101. That's the
Okay,
way we normally do it. I apologize. I was giving you guys time to reflect. That'll probably be a little easier. That way we don't have to each item, if that's okay.
go ahead, Mr. Kennedy.
All right, item number 2 is to reallocate within the county mayor executive category. Item number 3 is to reallocate within workforce development center category. Item number 4 is to appropriate excess board bill to fund departmental weapons upgrade for the sheriff's department. Item number 5 is to appropriate health department tobacco settlement grant. And item number 6 is to reallocate within the CARES Act category. This is a total budget amendment of $281,379.30 with $9,658.23 coming from unassigned fund balance. And that's what I ask for your approval, guys.
And that's what I make my motion to approve.
Thank you.
Ms. Brown, do you still second that?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, I've got a question for Captain Smith on the firearms. Is this going to be replacing their sidearms, Tom?
Yes, I'd be replacing the sidearms and going to have a new weapon system. Plus, we got to buy holsters and stuff to match the weapons we're purchasing.
What happens to the old ones? Do we sell those or trade them in, or what?
We'll trade those in, and you know we've got several. Well, we've got one.
Mr. Smith, if you could readjust on your mic there, we're hard to hear you there.
I don't know how to adjust it, so we're in trouble.
Ours is keyed for one second, Tom.
Can everybody else hear him clearly, or is it just us?
I can't hardly hear him.
No, I can barely hear him.
I can barely hear him.
Yell real loud for us, Mr. Smith.
Let me see if I can adjust it.
I don't think it's him.
Well, he was just fine, and then he went right out.
Got a hot dog too.
He at least made things prettier by cutting his camera off.
Oh. Shots fired.
At least everybody's at home.
Can't hear you at all now, Tom.
Or should
SMITHC. That's an, oh, Tom's bit backwards.
Test, 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 test.
We can hear you now. It's still low, but I think we'll just make do.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, somebody been playing with the mic. Anyway, I've done forgot the question, so.
Mr. Hill was asking about the firearms and what we do with them after we have got new ones.
Yeah, we will actually trade those in. We've got a quote from the individuals we're dealing with. And once, of course, we have to buy all this stuff on the front end, and then they will reimburse us for not only the weapons that we're carrying, but also the seized and court-ordered weapons that we have as well. And once all that occurs, then our plan is to take and put that money back in our board bill money.
Okay, thank you.
If that makes sense to you.
I feel like I've heard in the past that sometimes the officers can buy them. I didn't know if we sold them to our officers or if we just trade them in.
We still do. That option is available.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any more discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the roll. Mr. Von Cannon?
Aye.
Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. James is an aye. Ms. McAmey? Ms. McAmey?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Garland?
Yes, sorry.
Mr. Hill?
Yes.
All right, all ayes, motion passes. Mr. Kennedy, if you move on to the next.
Absolutely. If you guys want to go to page 27, this will be drug fund 122, budget amendment number 3. There are 3 items here. Item number 1 is to appropriate drug fund unassigned fund balance to refund Roy Teester in accordance with the court-ordered reimbursement. And it has a docket number there as well. I'm going to leave that off. I actually apologize. I was supposed to take that off before I put this on here, but it's all public knowledge anyway, but I'm not going to go elaborating on it. And then item number 2 is to appropriate drug fund unassigned fund balance to refund William Allen in accordance with a court-ordered reimbursement as well. And then item number 3 is to reallocate within drug fund category to fund per diem for Roger Brown, who is an officer. And
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Hill. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Campbell. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the roll. Mr. Von Cannon?
Aye.
Mr. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. James, yes. Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. McAmey?
Yes.
Mr. Garland?
So again, sorry, I got a quick question on that. There's 1704.50 coming from fund balance. Is that going to take all of it from unassigned then, the 2704?
Yeah, and remember, this will be drug fund unassigned fund balance. And it'll be just for the 1704.50.
Okay.
So it's not out of general fund.
Nope. It'll be 122 unassigned.
I got it. All right. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Kennedy.
All right. So we are now moving on to general purpose school fund 141. This is page 28. Budget amendment number 6. There's only one line item here, and that is to recognize monies received from the sale of excess property on GovDeals of vocational education equipment. And this is a total budget amendment of $4,075.74.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion by Mr. Garland.
Second.
second by Ms. Brown. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the roll. Mr. Von Cannon.
Aye.
Mr. Frazier.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. James, yes. Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Ms. McCamey.
Yes.
Mr. Garland.
Yes.
Motion passes. Mr. Kennedy.
Absolutely. If you guys want to turn to page 29, we're now getting to donations. The December 2020 donations is going to look a little bit different from the previous months. We added another line item, as you can see at the very far right. It's called Purpose, just essentially to help the animal shelter get an idea of going forward how to get the donations listed, so that way we know how to appropriate for them. So the total December 2020 donations is $3,200, and all of that is the animal shelter. And this is monetary donations that I ask for your approval.
Motion to approve.
A motion by Mr. Frazier. Do I hear a second?
Second.
A second by Ms. Brown. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the roll. Mr. Von Cannon.
Aye.
Mr. Frazier.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. James, yes. Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Ms. McCamey.
Yes.
Mr. Garland.
Yes.
Motion passes. Mr. Kennedy.
All right. And if you want to turn to page 30 and 31, these two pages work together side by side. This came directly from, as you'll see by the letterhead, the Carter County Elizabethton Animal Shelter. They are trying to get approval of their non-monetary donations. And as you can see, Walmart donations for the month of December 2020 is approximately $829.67. Then you also have other food donations for the month of December from several donors, including Eagle Scout Projects, School Project Donations, Elizabethton Elk Club, A.Y. McDonald, and several other anonymous donors that approximate approximately $3,214.50 of non-monetary donations. So adding both together, your approximate donations that I need approval is $4,044.17 of non-monetary donations to the animal shelter.
I'll make a
Motion to
motion.
approve.
All right. Who was Ms. Brown? Did you make the motion to approve?
Yes, I did.
All right. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Frazier. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the roll. Mr. Von Cannon.
Aye.
Mr. Frazier.
Aye.
Mr. Campbell.
Aye.
Mr. James, yes. Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Ms. Brown.
Yes.
Ms. McCamey.
Yes.
Mr. Garland.
Yes.
All right. Mr. Kennedy, anything else on your part?
I think we are done from the finance side point.
All right. Does any commissioner, any comments they'd like to add?
I have one to start off with. Do we not have anything for nominating tonight? We'll reconvene next month. We'll have an IDB posting to fill. And I think that's pretty much it.
Chairman James?
Yes, Commissioner Hill.
I don't want to drag this meeting to a screeching halt, but we probably need to address the coronavirus leave, since it seems like the federal government didn't do anything. Ours will run out on February the 1st.
What's the pleasure of your poison?
I'm just throwing out for the will of the committee to see if we want to extend it out any further.
It would probably be a good idea, given the fact that obviously, as we know, coronavirus hasn't gone away and we don't have a new one. So this is a great idea, Mr. Hill, to possibly extend it another month to see what the federal government does. So I agree with you there.
I don't think it would be a terrible idea if we extended another month, and if they don't do anything at that point, cap it, that be the end of the line, since they are pushing out the vaccines decently well.
I'll make a motion to do that.
We got a motion from Ms. Brown, and
I'll
we got a
second.
second from Mr. Frazier to extend the virus relief.
Mr. Kennedy, what's been the uptake on that?
As far as people utilizing it, is that what you're
Yes.
asking?
Yes, sir.
I don't know of anyone on the county side off the top of my head. Brad, do you know of anyone recently that's been taking it?
You muted, Director.
You're muted, Brad.
Okay. Not that I can think of.
Yeah, it's kind of a hard one to answer right off the bat, because that would be a better question to ask payroll. And if we had them on the line, it'd be an easy answer for you guys. But we can definitely get something back by to all of you guys via email after the meeting during the week.
Yeah, and if you could also give us a report to update on next month's budget packet, what the cost has been so far and what our running total is, what we expended out for this. That'd be great. Any more discussion, Mr. Frazier?
Not on that.
Oh, anybody else?
You want to put a deadline on that, Ms. Brown?
The end of the month, next month, if we hadn't heard anything from the federal government.
So that would be
The 28th at
February.
11:59.
Sounds good.
Everybody good with that? Mr. Frazier?
I accept.
Okay. Any more discussion? All right, seeing none, call the roll. Mr. Von Cannon?
Aye.
Mr. Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. James, yes. Mr. Hill?
Yes.
Ms. McAmey?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Garland?
Yes.
Good deal. Any other commissioner comments? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We got a motion, Mr. Von Cannon, and a second by Mr. Frazier. All in favor by saying aye. Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys.
Go Alabama.
Remember, there's no nominating.